chapter 23. Now these are the last words of David, the saying of David, the son of Jesse, and the saying of the man raised on high, the anointed of the God of Jacob, and the sweet singer of Israel. The Spirit of the Lord spoke by me, and his word was upon my tongue. The God of Israel said, the Rock of Israel spoke to me. Ruler over men shall be the righteous, even he that ruleth in the fear of God. And as the light of the morning, when the sun rises, a morning without clouds, when through clear shining after rain the tender grass springs out of the earth. For is not my house established with God for an everlasting covenant? He hath made with me, ordered in all things, and sure for all my salvation and all my desire will he not make it to grow. But the ungodly, they are as thorns thrust away, all of them, for they cannot be taken with the hand. But the man that toucheth them must be armed with iron and the staff of a spear, and they shall be utterly burned with fire in their place. These are the names of the mighty men whom David had: Josheb Bashabeth, a Tachamonite, chief of the captains. The same was Adino the Eznite. He lifted up his spear against 800, whom he slew at one time. And after him was Eleazar, the son of Dodo, the son of an Ahohite, one of the three mighty men with David, when they jeoparded their lives against the Philistines that were there gathered together to battle, and the men of Israel were gone away. He stood firm and smote the Philistines until his hand was weary, and his hand did cleave unto the sword. And the Lord wrought a great victory that day, and the people returned after him only to strip the slain. And after him was Shammah, the son of Agee, the Ararite, and the Philistines were gathered together into a troop, where was a plot of ground full of lentils, and the people fled from the Philistines. But he stood in the midst of the plot, and defended it, and slew the Philistines, and the Lord wrought a great victory. And the 3 of the 30 chiefs went down, and came to David in the harvest time unto the cave of Adullam, and the troop of the Philistines were encamped in the valley of Rephaim. And David was then in the stronghold, and the garrison of Philistines was then in Bethlehem. And David longed, and said, Oh, that one would give me water to drink of the well of Bethlehem, which is by the gate. And the 3 mighty men broke through the host of the Philistines, and drew water out of the well to Bethlehem, that was by the gate, and took it, and brought it to David. But he would not drink thereof, but poured it out unto the Lord. And he said, Be it far from me, O Lord, that I should do this. Shall I drink the blood of the men that went in jeopardy of their lives? Therefore he would not drink it. These things did the 3 mighty men. And Abishai, the brother of Joab, the son of Zeruiah, was chief of the 3. And he lifted up his spear against 300, and slew them, and had a name among the 3. He was most honorable of the 3, therefore he was made their captain. However, he attained not unto the first 3. And Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man of Kabzeel, who had done mighty deeds, he smote the 2 altar hearths of Moab. He went down also, and slew a lion in the midst of the pit in the time of snow. And he slew an Egyptian, a goodly man, and the Egyptian had a spear in his hand. But he went down to him with a staff, and plucked the spear out of the Egyptian's hand, and slew him with his own spear. Now these things did Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and had a name among the 3 mighty men. And he was more honorable than the 30, but he attained not to the first 3. And David set him over his guard. And Asahel, the brother of Joab, was one of the 30. Elhanan, the son of Dodo, of Bethlehem. Shammah the Harodite. Elikah the Harodite. Helaz the Paltite. Ira the son of Ikesh the Tekoite. Abiezer the Anathothite. Mebunai the Hushathite. Solomon the Ahohite, Maharai the Nephtophthite, Heleb the son of Banah, Netophathite, Ittai the son of Ribai of Gibeah, the children of Benjamin, Benaiah a Parathonite, Hidai of Nahelgaash, Abi Albon the Arbathite, Osmaveth the Barhumite, Eliabah the Shalabonite, of the sons of Yashin, Jonathan, Elphaleh the son of Ahasbai, the son of the Maacathite, Eliam the son of Ahithophel, the Gileonite, Hezrai the Carmelite, Perai the Arbite, Egal the son of Nathan of Zobah, Bani the Gadite, Zelek the Ammonite, Naharai the Beerothite, armor-bearer to Joab the son of Zeruiah, Ira the Ithrite, Gerub the Ithrite, Uriah the Hittite, 37 in all. All right, let's go back to verse 1. Yesterday we remember that we talked about the underworld. God's trying to lift you up out of this, give you a higher understanding of all of it so that he can make your feet like hinds' feet. Your feet go on these places that the others can't go because they are brought into the flesh. Now God's wanting to teach you. He's going to teach you from a higher understanding today, and we're going to start in verse 1. Now these are the last words of David, the saying of David, the son of Jesse, and the saying of a man raised on high, the anointed of the God of Jacob, and the sweet singer of Israel. So now we're going to have the last words of David, or this is a saying that David would use often, and it's been recorded, and it's going to have a special meaning because God has anointed David. God anointed David for a reason. Was going to make an example out of David, and he was going to use the house of David for a long time. 2, the Spirit of the Lord spoke by me, and his word was upon my tongue. So David's telling you now, God has spoke by me. God has used my tongue, my mouth, to speak to you. 3, the God of Israel said, and the rock of Israel spoke to me. So David's telling you now just who did, and God is, what David's trying to tell you now, God has revealed himself to me in the Word. God has revealed himself to me, and he spoke to me. This rock of Israel has spoken to me, and he has said, the ruler over men shall be the righteous, even he that ruleth in the fear of God. And this simply means those that are righteous, those that fear God, those that obey God's law, shall be the rulers of men. 4, and as the light of the morning, when the sun rises, a morning without clouds, when through clear shining after rain, the tender grass springs out of the earth. When the light of the morning, this is when the morning first begins to break after the darkness. This is when understanding begins to come in. It's like the sun rising in the darkness. And this is a morning now without clouds. There's no clouds. It's a clear sky. And in the rain, a gentle rain has just ceased. And it's like the morning shining through now in a gentle rain. And we see the tender grass springing forth out of the earth. And this is going to be the new life coming out. 5, for is not my house established with God for an everlasting covenant? He hath made with me, ordered in all things, and sure for all my salvation, and my desire will he not make it to grow. And David's talking about the kingdom now that God has established David over, and this is going to be an everlasting covenant. And we remember now, David is being used as the servant of God, as an example now of this servant of God who was established from the beginning. This servant was Israel, and Israel could not understand their purpose, so God sent them a king who he was going to make an example of them. But now David has erred along his way, and God has told David now what he was going to do when to his seed. See, David understands these things, and David's accepted these things. He's accepted this judgment seat that God has put upon him, this seat that this everlasting covenant of this judgment seat. 6. But the ungodly, they are as thorns thrust away, all of them, for they cannot be taken with the hand. And so God's teaching us now, and these thorns, they are those that go astray, those that have went against God's law, those that have been against God's law for a long time, and they contend with it. They want to try to sew pillows to the arm of God. They want to try to make it relaxful. They want to try to worship God in all abominable forms, any form but obedience to the law. And David's telling you now, these thorns, you can't handle them. You can't handle them now with your hands, or you're going to be pricked. But what's going to happen to these thorns is they're going to be burned with fire. And this is the judgment now that we're talking about. And this is what's going to come forth. 7. But the man that toucheth them must be armed with iron, and the staff of a spear, and they shall be utterly burned with fire in their place. So David's telling you these briar patches, and we know all about these briar patches. They was left, see, these briar patches were left from the beginning now, and God's going to try to make this clear to you. From the beginning, he's done this, so he can make an example now, and he's going to use the house of David to compare it to this giant briar patch. And he's telling you can't handle it. You'll have to have something of iron or a spear in your hand to make it through here, or you're going to burn them with fire in their place. 8. These are the names of the mighty men who David had. So we've made an end now of this short explanation. Then we're going to go into a list of names. And anytime we got a list of names, we're going to need to and start translating, because there's going to be the prophecies now hidden in these translations. Now, we've done with through. There's 37 in all, and 37 is the dedication is perfect. And this is the plan of God. But if we don't understand and we just have this story, there's understanding and lessons in the story, but the greater understanding now comes in what it all means. So we're going to go through, and we're going to start in verse 8. Verse 8, of course, is always the new beginning with this translation of these names, and I'm going to try to get this right. And we're going to start there with Yosheb-Basshebeth, because he's the one who sits in the seat and of the chiefs. Now, and this seat, he's sitting in a seat that don't belong to him in the first place. See, because actually this judgment seat belongs to God. And he's sitting there now in this seat. And Yosheb, the Tachomite, he's one of those that are made wise. And he's the chief of the captains. He's the head of it all. And he's the same man is Adino the Eznite. And this Adino the Eznite this is the one who sat there for an ornament. See, this is the one God's going to make an example of. And he is the sharp strength of judgment. See, he is this instrument of judgment that God has brought against the people. And he is the new beginning of judgment. And from the beginning, God has told you this. Judgment is complete, and God rules men, you drifters. God has helped. God, out of love, those of brotherliness are surprised in horror. I will overcome those that dwell on high, the drifters, mountain dwellers, those that dwell in high place. Drifters are what they are. Complete dedication for the loved one. Justice for the people against the drifters. Those that heal. There's drifters in the house of God. By the well in Bethlehem. They're established of God. dedicated from the beginning, is complete. God knows. God has gathered those that are like their Father. God has fashioned it. God is the Father. God has grace. From the beginning, He has dedicated it for the house of bread out of love. They're surprised in horror. Those that tremble, my God rejects those that tremble. He has drawn out those that are to be delivered. An awakener, those who warn. My Father is help for the afflicted, the established, those that hurry. Image that shades. And these that hurry will remember, these were those that were at the base of the mountain. They couldn't wait for Moses to come back, and they hurried, and they made themselves an idol now. And what happened when Moses come down with the law? The law was cast down. Moses destroyed their idol, and he went back up the mountain and brought the law down again. And this is that image we're talking about there, that shades, this brother of rest, those that are impatient, those that are thrown down, those made fat, those who are looked down on, those that are cast down, those who are with those who contend with God. In the high place, the Son of my right hand. This is my work I do. The established of God. The princely for the rejoicing of God. The inheritor of quaking. My Father is God. Those of the dry place. Strength in the place of death. Young man of darkness. God has hidden in the place of foxes. Sleep God has given. Horror for those of the high places. My brother's mother, the enemy, those dwellers of the high place, God delivers. Brother has encompassed me in oppression. The people of God, where my brother is foolish. Those of exile are in the enclosure of walls in the garden land. There is a wide opening, a hole, a giant hole. Those that ambush are lying in wait there. He redeems. He has given a station and a post, and it is established. Those of a troop are divided. The nations are snorting at the wells. God is the Father, and He has broken the enlightener. Those of abundance, scratching at the scab, those of abundance. God is my light, you descendants of terror. All right, now would be well the translations would read. The last verse reads that God is my fire, God is my lamp, you descendants of terror. Now the dedication is perfection, because this is the dedication, see. God has set one there, and He's going to use him now as a giant snare and a trap for all mankind. But the one alone who is used shall be spared. It's already written. There's nothing you can do. Many have been taken. Let's move on to chapter 24.